tastes like.
That's what they do. They hand it off. Plumlee, still on his feet. Room service, touchdown. Nice. And now Plumlee runs. It's a foot race. Touchdown.
Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium, the home to Navy football and the home for the Military Bowl between UCF and Duke in beautiful Annapolis, Maryland, meeting on the gridiron for the very first time. Hello and welcome inside the American Studios along ESPN college football analyst Rini Ngolia, Taylor McCarg. I'm Morgan Uber. Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium, just 1 mile from the campus of the Naval Academy. Rini, you've covered this game a time or two. What is the scene like there?
It's a great bowl game. I love the Military Bowl, and the setting, as you said, Morgan, it's just great. It's a great place to go. It'll be a lot of fans, great place to travel, a lot to do in Annapolis, so it's a great setting.
Taylor, what are your expectations?
A lot of change already for UCF, and biggest key is what does the bounce back look like after the loss to Tulane? I think it's still an exciting matchup, and it's a challenge on the other side with this Duke team.
Well, you alluded to it. Let's take a look here at how these two teams got here. For UCF, in year 2 under head coach Gus Malzahn, the Knights reached 9 wins for a second straight season. This time, though, with their regular season wins over Tulane and Cincinnati, UCF finished second in the conference standings, which earned them a spot in the American Conference Championship game, falling to the Green Wave 45-28. And as for Duke, in Mike Elko's first season as head coach, he was named the ACC Coach of the Year after guiding the Blue Devils to an 8-4 season. Duke's 5-3 conference record marked the program's most league wins since 2014. And these two teams, taking a look head-to-head, they should match up well. Very similar in terms of their stats, points per game. UCF's 34 to Duke's 33. UCF has the edge in total offense and in their scoring margin. But what will look different here is the two deep for UCF. A lot of guys are going to get starts with the opt-outs that we've seen for the Knights. What side of the ball do you expect to present the most differences, Rini?
For UCF, I think defensively they lost a couple players. You talked about opt-outs, transfer portal. They lost Ryan O'Keefe, one of their best wide receivers. The thing with UCF is they limped to the finish line. All right, they lost to Navy at home when they had a chance to control the American Athletic Conference, host that conference championship. They go to USF, their rival. They have to come back and win that game. Obviously, they lost the conference championship to Tulane. So this is a team that's kind of reeling, right? And they got to kind of find themselves and get that energy and that momentum back because it's a team that can be very explosive. I called them a couple times this year. A lot of pieces on that team, but as we talked about, losing a few good players. And then John Rice Plumlee, of course, his health was an issue down the stretch. And, the couple weeks off for the bowl game is going to help him out tremendously. How
does UCF match the motivation that Duke is going to have coming into this one, especially having one of their best seasons here in recent program history?
To me, that may be the key for this entire bowl game is Mike Elko came in and really put a shot in the arm into this Duke program. 8-4 this year, an 8-win team out of the ACC. Outside of the Cotton Bowl and USC, I think Duke may be the best team that an American Conference team is playing in the postseason. They're going to be ready to go. They're going to be motivated. They're playing relatively close to home with this bowl game. Duke should have a pretty good crowd here as well. I think Gus Malzahn's got a challenge on his hand to make sure that you talk about the opt-outs and transfer portal. Yeah. These young guys that are going to be playing, got to get them ready to go and motivated because Duke's going to be motivated on the other side.
At this point right now, there are a total of 10 UCF players who have opted out and entered the transfer portal, and 5 really notable ones right here as we take a look. One of them being backup quarterback Mikey Keene, who we saw come in and make some key plays, got the Knights to some key wins here. Wide receiver Ryan O'Keefe, who was big for the Knights all season. And defensively, cornerback Devontae Brown and linebacker Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste, a key leader for the Knights on the defensive side of the ball. And then their punter Andrew Austin. Which side of the ball, Taylor, concerns you most, based on who's opted out?
I think the critical piece for UCF would be on the offensive side of the ball, and Rini alluded to this, John Rice Plumlee's health. If he can run the ball effectively, this offense is completely different. When he can't, and he wasn't able to be mobile, that's where you saw Mikey Keene come in. Well, Mikey Keene's not there anymore. So that, to me, is the biggest question mark. If you see a completely healthy John Rice Plumlee, then I think they present some challenges on the offensive side that not a lot of teams do. And I think back, Duke lost to Kansas earlier in the year. Obviously, Kansas run the ball well with a mobile quarterback. That's sort of the blueprint that you have to follow, but it comes down to John Rice Plumlee's health.
And you talked about Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste. He's the middle linebacker. He was the leader out there. He called the defenses, right? So that's a big loss defensively. Devontae Brown, the corner, big, long corner, really good lockdown corner. You lose two really big pieces for your defense.
You mentioned leadership. Well, on the offensive side of the ball, they do have Plumlee back, and he was the glue that kept this team together all season. And when we take a look here, at his season stats and what he did for them this season, what is his character and what he brings? How does it really match what he brings to this program, Taylor?
Well, physical runner with the football, and I think back to the win over SMU right in the middle of the season. That was an inflection point for that team where the game is close, they come out in the second half and they blow the doors off of SMU, and it felt like he got better as the season went along. Biggest game of the season, hands down, was at Tulane for the first go-around where he went off, had almost 200 yards rushing in that game. That hamstring injury is critical, and if he can move past that and he's healthy, this is a completely different offense. He got better as a passer as the season went along, but that's not really his strength. The strength for his game is when he can get on the edge, RPO, play action stuff, and allow him to have that third option be to take off and run.
He's an absolute dynamic athlete and can make all kinds of plays with his feet. I did that SMU game. That second half of the SMU game, he threw the ball better than any time during the season. If John Rice Plumlee throws the ball like he did in the second half of that SMU game, along with his dynamic ability running the ball, he's a great quarterback. The problem is doing it both in one game.
Not only did he make the decision to come back and play in this bowl game, but he made the decision to come back and play for another season at UCF, which will certainly be great for the Knights. But as they make the shift out of the American Conference, Rini, you live there in Orlando. You've covered your fair share of UCF games. When you think about their 10 seasons in the American, what is it that you'll remember most?
Well, they have a great legacy. There's no doubt about it. 2017, everyone's going to remember that 13-0 run. Win the Peach Bowl, you beat Auburn. And a lot of people forget, too, so you go 13-0. Well, they started 12-0 in 18, so 25 straight wins. And their only loss that year was to LSU in a New Year's Six Bowl game. So an incredible run for this program and just really great players. They did a great job and really put Orlando on the map. But really that 2017 season, I think, that 13-0, and ironically, Gus Malzahn, their head coach now, was the head coach at Auburn, I think is what people are going to remember them about.
A 57-23 record here in this conference, 4 conference championships, winning conference championships even before there was that championship game that started in 2015 in the American, and then 9 bowl appearances, going 4-4 during that time here in the conference, and certainly have cemented their legacy in the conference. As we take a look back, though, to the keys of this game, they're certainly going to want to finish this with a win. Coach Malzahn has said, we want to create some momentum going into next year. We want to get that Tulane loss in that championship game out of our mouths. So what is it, Rini, when it comes down to keys for the game? What are you looking at?
Taylor actually said it. Play with enthusiasm. Show that you want to be there, because Duke is going to. They're going to be excited under Mike Elko to be there. So just that's the big thing for it. So if they can show up and play, they have the weapons around John Rice Plumlee. Even though they've lost a lot of players, transfer portal, they have the defensive players that they can win this game, but they have to want to be there.
Taylor, what about for you?
Motivation, absolutely. I think that's 1 and 1A. Behind that, it's John Rice Plumlee's health. If that hamstring is good to go and he can run the ball effectively, they certainly have a chance.
John Rice Plumlee has proven to be a warrior. He's a competitor coming out of that championship game with the injury. I think in this one, even though it's impressive what Coach Elko has done here in year 1, I have the Knights winning this one. Rini, Taylor, what is it for you?
Okay, full disclosure, you said it. I live in Orlando. My wife has 2 degrees from UCF. With that said, I'm picking Duke. And the reason why I'm going with Duke is Mike Elko. He's a defensive-minded coach, right? We know that. I think he's going to make John Rice Plumlee one-dimensional. They're going to take the running ability away from him. They're going to force him to beat them with his arm. And he can do it, okay? But I think that's what's going to happen. And I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on him. I think Duke wins this game. Sorry, Knights fans.
Taylor, what about you?
I'm going with Duke as well. This is a top 5 team out of the ACC. This is a very good Duke football team. And you said it already. Mike Elko is going to take away what you do best on the offensive side. And for UCF, that's quarterback run game. You're going to see a lot of bodies close to the line of scrimmage. They're going to try and limit what John Rice Plumlee can do, force them to take shots downfield. And I think if that's what UCF is forced into doing, that certainly benefits Duke.
And just for the record, we did not talk before this.
We did not.
So. 2 against 1. Well, I still like my odds. I still have the Knights, no question. But we'll find out here on December 28th in the Military Bowl as the Knights take on Duke. That's Wednesday, December 28th, 2 p.m. Eastern on ESPN.